welcome. It's kind of a dreary day here in Alabama as we're waiting on Hurricane Sally to come rolling in. And on days like today where you can't really do anything outside, it's a perfect day to work on small projects indoors. The project that I'm going to work on today is a holster, particularly a soft holster. The holster I'm going to make today is for a full-framed 45 ACP, and I don't mean the little plastic guns that they have out now. This one is, like I said, metal slide, metal frame, everything in it's metal. So it does need to be heavy duty. Now I've made a bunch of holsters for revolvers, semi-automatics, but they've all been made out of leather, and this is my first attempt at making a soft-sided holster. Now as usual, I'm going to make this out of some scrap materials that I have, and it's going to be kind of a design as you go kind of deal. So let's go in the shop and get started. To make my holster, the first thing I got to do is make a pattern. And to do that, I'm going to take a sheet of paper and I'm just going to fold it in half and use the crease as my center line. Next, I'm going to take my pistol and I'm going to lay it on there, sights down, centered up inside that crease. For a right-handed holster, roll it to the right. For a left-handed holster, roll it to the left. When you roll your handgun over, don't slide it, just, like I said, let it roll over. And then come over here to your center line and then trace around it. Now, as you can see, when I fold this over, it covers up the whole gun. And I don't want my holster coming up over my grips and all that. I want my holster to start at the front of the rear sight and right here at the back of the trigger guard. So I'm going to draw me a dot here and then a dot there. And I'm just going to kind of draw me a radius like so. Now, when you're making your own holster, there really is no pattern, style, standard, or whatever. You're literally only limited by your imagination. Now, I'm going to start 3/4 of an inch away from the end of my barrel. So here's one side of my pattern, and I came about 3/4 of an inch away from the outline and then drew a line down and then created another radius right here. And I want my extra magazine to sit about right here. Now I'm just going to take and fold it over and trace the other side. So here's kind of how it's going to look. So this is the material that I'm going to use. This isn't nylon, this is actually duck back canvas. It's waterproof and mildew resistant. I bought this many years ago when I had it on sale, bought several yards of it, and have used it to make I don't know how many different kinds of projects. So like I said, that's what I'm going to use. This is my first mock-up now that I got my material cut out. You can kind of see the outline of the gun, and my magazine will fit something like that, or maybe something like that. I hadn't decided yet. Next, I took just a piece of scrap material and kind of trimmed it up to give me the makings of the strap that'll hold the pistol in place. It's going to fit kind of like so. And I took another scrap piece of canvas and trimmed it up to make my magazine pouch, which will work kind of like this. Fit in like that, then mount right there. And I will stitch it to the holster itself and then stitch the bottom closed so that I'll have easier access to my magazine. For my belt loop, I'm using a scrap piece of black leather that is real stiff, and it'll kind of fit on there like this and kind of look like that from the side. Now that I've got all my pieces, I'm ready to start putting it together. For my padding, I'm just going to use a piece of polyfill that's sandwiched between my two layers of canvas. I took and hemmed up this scrap piece of material that I'm going to use for my magazine pouch so that it'll keep from fraying. And it's going to attach to the holster like this. I went ahead and stitched the inside of my magazine pouch to my holster, and I did this before I turned it into the clamshell. The reason being is, as I'm stitching this through, I wouldn't have access to my needles to pass them back and forth if this was already turned into a clamshell. With that done, I can go ahead and fold this over and stitch the rest of the magazine pouch to the holster. I now have my magazine pouch attached, and originally I was going to come all the way down then close the end up, but after thinking it over, I felt like if this got wet or water in it, that it would hold moisture down in here. And with just this loop style, I believe it'd give me easier access to the magazine. So with that done, I can now add my belt loop. So I got my belt loop added, and again, I changed the design because the first design I had, I found that when I went to draw my holster out, it would slide up and down. Whereas this style will make it to where there's more of a snug fit against my belt and won't slide up and down as much. So with that out of the way, I want to add my strap. And again, I've made another design change. I'm going to use a piece of black leather rather than just a piece of scrap material so that I could do a thumb snap and it'll be more secure. I finished stitching together my holster and it turned out pretty good. I'm quite pleased with it. And this is my first attempt to actually make a holster out of a fabric. Normally I use leather. So with it finished, let's load it up. So the holster fits the gun really well. And again, I'm quite pleased with it. By way of comparison, this is the holster that I was using versus the holster I just got through making. So as you can see, it's a lot more compact and it seems like it fits the gun better. And if you have a lot of handguns, it gets rather expensive to buy a holster for every one of them. So like I said, this one cost me literally $0 because when I bought this material, like I said, I've used it for many projects, and some of those projects I sold. So like I said, I made my money back on this. So basically this was just free material. So with my holster finished, I'm now going to see how it functions. Now, aside from the fact that I suck at a tactical reload or speed reload for a semi-automatic, the holster worked really well. Now, this holster cost me nothing but like an hour of my time, as opposed to paying $20 or $30 for one. So there's my first attempt at making a soft-sided holster. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see y'all next time.